Hey, now welcome to my capstone. Okay, welcome to my capstone oral presentation. My name is Robert Mosley, and now we begin. Teaching context. As far as teaching context go, I'm currently finishing my teaching residency at Kipps Drive Primary School that's located in Atlanta, Georgia. It's a public charter school. The part that I work in goes from K through 4, and then the academy side is 5 through 8. Things that make my school unique is that it was the first, I believe, one of the first KIPP primary schools that were made in Atlanta. I think they already had a few of the academy sides, but this was the first primary school as far as KIPP Atlanta goes, as well as the historical history in this neighborhood. Along this street, you had civil rights movements as far as Martin Luther King marching the streets and other activists like John Lewis and so on and so forth. As far as demographics go, it's primarily consists of Black or African American students, followed by white, then Hispanic, and then American Latino slash Native American. And another thing that makes it a strong asset, going back to the cultural influences in this neighborhood. You can see the close knit community, the family oriented or orientation that it is, and just everybody loving on one another and building the community up, as well as trying to stay grounded with those roots that's been instilled during the civil rights movement. Research question. So my research question goes as follows. What is the impact of using graphic organizers on structural organization, meaning beginning, middle, and end, of narrative writing for second grade students? I believe that writing is just an essential skill or ability that all people need. Of course, as you progress through grades, you have to know how to write, which translates into reading. They go hand in hand. So when I'm working with my second grade class in particular, when it comes to writing, some of them don't know how to flesh out all of their ideas. So I believe this graphic organizer will in part help them build and create their ideas, flesh them out, be able to organize it so they can see it before they actually start writing. And the potential impact is, like I said, I believe it will gradually help them their overall writing ability tremendously, because they can write, and some of them still in that phase of learning how to write. But most of all, at least with my class, a lot of them can write. It's just the fact of trying to, how should I put it, when particularly in a narrative writing, making their story beginning, middle, and end, and being able to be descriptive of what happens in the beginning, what happens in the middle, and what happens in the end. And it's based on our curriculum, our ELA curriculum, which is Fish Tank. They get to read a lot of books, a lot of stories, and then they take it from there as far as doing target tasks, and writing prompts that go along with that. The connections, um, graphic organizers are more visually connected. So when we have a KWL chart in my room, which will help create a visual concept of what the readers need to know, what they're looking for as they read, as well as you pair with the graphic organizer as far as fleshing out their ideas and how to organize that for them. Relevance to educators, they act as a universal scaffold, meaning anybody can use them at any given time, regardless of grade level. I mean, maybe kindergarten a little tricky, but anybody can use them any given amount of time, and it's to help flesh out ideas, organize, structure their writing, so when they get to writing paragraphs or more complex sentences, they know what they want to write. And my research is grounded in the academic data I collected from Fish Tank, our ELA modules. We have a summative assessment at the end of each module where they have to write a narrative form of writing or a descriptive form of writing based on the collective of books we read in that module. So it's based on the first module, the first module that we did, and it was based on cultures around the world, and then they had to read different Cinderella books that were from based on different cultures and tie all that in together. Literature review. As far as the literature review would go, these are just some of the resources, some of the scholarly journal articles and things of that nature that I researched and found that could help ground the research that I'm doing as far as the literature part of it, the academic literature part. This one just states, they're effective, especially in the pre-writing part of the writing process, pre-writing, brainstorming section before they actually get to taking stuff down. This one describes how graphic organizers can help with reading comprehension. Going back to what I said, reading and writing go hand in hand. Graphic organizers grounding evidence, and it's based on testing scores, testing people pre-test and post-test, the ones who use graphic organizers, and the ones who use traditional read and discuss, and the people who use graphic organizers perform well. And then last but not least, it's just that it helps with generating ideas. Going back to that, just being able to put their thoughts out on paper before they actually begin to write something. Evidence-based strategy, going back to grounded research, some of those same academic literature reviews that I did, that helps ground the research for me doing this, for me to conclude that graphic organizers would benefit my second grade class with narrative writing. And then the evidence-based strategy I'm using is, of course, a graphic organizer. Excuse me. It's lined with the area of need in my class based on the academic data I collected from the NMI ELA Module 1 scores from my students when it came to their writing prompt and how they organized and their thoughts and ideas and trying to structure everything together to write a summative story out of everything they read about cultures and about the different Cinderella stories. And the implementation of the graphic organizer is that it's versatile, highly applicable. It's so many different ones, so it's just based on your class, printing out the right one, handing it to them. I would suggest modeling it for them before you actually do it, and then being consistent with doing it so they know what to expect when they get it, and then translating that onto when they actually writing out their writing task. Methodology. So when it comes to baseline data, as I stated before, it comes or it's derived from the academic data that I got from the NMI writing prompts, which is a summative assessment. The three data sources that I used were the NMI writing prompts, that's summative. Student journals, we have this doing small group. They get time to just write in their journals, and I'll sometimes go through and read them, which is qualitative. Target task, this is also in line with the ELA. This is something they do every day. They have to do a target task based on what chapter we read, or if we read the complete book, or whatever we do in the fish tank. They have to write the target task, and the target task asks them different questions, so they get more at bats with writing. Implementation of the strategy as follows. You can implement this before each of these three. So before they do a student journal in small group, have it over there with them so they can get the journal and the graphic organizer before, while they're doing the NMI test, as well as while they're doing the target test. Just have that for them so they can jot down, brainstorm, collect their thoughts, ideas, structure it there, and then translate that on the actual assessment or the paper. And my primary use for it is to be implemented during the NMI. That's the time they're going to be using a lot of writing skills and summative thinking of just everything they've learned from that model. Addressing inequities. So addressing inequities in my classroom would be focused more on structure. So it'd be focused more on time as well as expectations. Creating a system of expectations that they expected from me to have it for them, as well as I expect for them to use it correctly, and then just the time and how I incorporate that into the lesson. So it's not so much I'm taking out so much time that it's just second nature. As far as impact, I believe it'll have a positive impact on my writers, on my students, with their ability to write and organize their thoughts. Personal agency as an educator, on the behalf of my scholars, I give them my all. So when I see any form of learning gaps, I don't mind doing the extra work inside or outside of school. And me doing extra work with graphic organizers, I feel like when it comes to their writing ability, it should be able to help them immensely. Systematic change. As far as systematic change, research analysis, understanding that it's not a one size fits all thing, as well as mitigating my own biases when it comes to writing. Thinking like, okay, they in second grade, they learn enough in kindergarten and first grade, and everything we've taught them in second grade to this point, that they should be able to give me stuff. So just doing away with my own biases or what I feel like they should know, or the one size fits all model, and then incorporating graphic organizers is it can show some differentiation because there are different types of graphic organizers. So for some of my Excel writers, they have this form, and then you got easier graphic organizers for some of the lower ones that's trying to build their writing capacity. And as far as position, being intentional and looking for the areas, this is what this research made me do. It made me more intentional in looking up learning gaps, at least in my class, or for the whole school in general when it comes to our writing. And because with a public charter school, the main thing to focus on is math, reading, and writing. So trying to find those gaps and close those gaps. So doing this research made it more intentional for me to want to go look at the data and then go look at other areas that we can improve on. Relevance and applicability. My bad. Applicability, relevance, and applicability. So my why is I just hope to see the overall growth in writing ability of my scholars as they get ready for third grade. And in Georgia, we have the Georgia Mass coming up. They take the first round of it, the GMAS, and then in fourth grade they have it again. So just getting them ready and prepared for that next step next year, as well as the relevance and it being applicable. Not only to my class, but to every class. All you have to do is create them or print them out. When I was doing my research, there are books made with hundreds of different graphic organizers that can be used for not only just writing, but for different content areas like math and science and social studies. So just being able to use them at will, use them when we need to help our scholars move along with their writing ability. And then references. These are all my references that I use when doing this. I'm sorry for the congestion. I'm sorry for stumbling over some words. I'm just nervous, but I'm thankful for the opportunity. And yeah, that's my overall thing. Thank you.